Move on in His power, move on in His strength. Now move on in His boldness, He will be with you. Move in His abundance, move in His protection, move in His provision, He will be with you. Why don't you move on? Move on, 'cause Jesus, yes, my Jesus is telling us to move on. Move on, 'cause Jesus, I know He's going to see us through. I say move on, 'cause Jesus, yes, my Jesus is telling us to move on. Move on, 'cause Jesus, and I know He's going to see us through. Do not be discouraged, do not be disheartened, do not be dismayed. He will be with you. Never be discouraged, never be disheartened, never be dismayed. He will be with you. Why don't you move on? Now move on, 'cause Jesus, yes, my Jesus is telling us to move on. Move on, 'cause Jesus, I know He's going to see us through. Therefore move on, and move on, 'cause Jesus, oh, my Jesus is telling us to move on. Move on, 'cause Jesus, and I'm sure He's going to see us through. The devil will come in one way, in 7 ways he shall flee. So move on in His power, He will be with you. Though you fall 7 times, you shall rise again. So move on in His power, He will be with you. Why don't you move on? Now move on, 'cause Jesus, yeah, my Jesus is telling us to move